This next set of videos is going to take a look at how we can do inferential statistics with means. When we're working with a mean, generally we have to use this thing called the student's t-distribution. The student's t-distribution is very similar to the normal distribution, except that it changes shape based on these things that we're going to call the degrees of freedom. And we'll use the formula, we'll use df for degrees of freedom. And generally, the degrees of freedom formula is n minus 1, or 1 less than the sample size. Now, the t-distribution still has basically the same shape. It just might be wider, taller, or skinnier based on the number of degrees of freedom that we're working with. But it's still got that same normal shape, so generally we will represent it in much the same way as the normal distribution. Just keeping in mind that the degrees of freedom do impact the shape and also the probabilities then that we end up with. So if we want to find a critical value on Excel for a confidence interval, where we want to get a certain percentage in a tail, the way we're going to do that in Excel is we will type in equals t.inv.2t, the alpha size, comma, the degrees of freedom. And what that will do is that will give the value of t that splits alpha between the two tails. Visually, what we're saying is we're going to have some mean in the middle, and in the tails, in this shaded region, that is our alpha. It'll give the value of the alpha that's going to split between the two tails to give us that confidence interval that we might be looking for. So let's do an example. We're going to find the critical value of a sample size 24 for a 92% confidence interval. So basically, we've got this confidence interval we want to put 92% in the middle. Well, if there's 92% in the middle for the confidence interval, this outside stuff is the 100% minus that. The outside stuff together is 8%, or 0.08. So I'm going to hop over to Excel, and I'm going to type in equals t.inverse.2t, put in that 0.08 that I want in those outside tails, comma, and then our degrees of freedom is always 1 less than the sample size. 1 less than 24 is 23, and that's going to give me a critical value of 1.83. Now that we know how to find the critical value on Excel using the t-distribution for a mean, we're ready to, in our next video, actually calculate the confidence intervals.